Afternoon, everyone. Thank you very much for joining me today. I think we're now afternoon in the States, certainly on the Eastern Coast. This is Stepping Up, which is a webcast from TA Tech. The Stepping Up webcast, the whole purpose of Stepping Up is to dig a little bit deeper with organizations that are members of TA Tech who are talent technology companies, from job boards to job aggregators to recruitment technology companies all over the world. And today I have a very, very special guest. My guest today is from an organization who represent probably, I'd say, the largest whole demographic of workers in the US. And that company is JobGet. And my guest today is Dan Sapir. So good afternoon, Dan. How are you?
I'm well. Thanks for having me. I'm here, excited to be representing JobGet.
Fantastic. It's good to see you. So for people who don't know so much about, and we have an audience all over the world, including the UK and Europe. But for people who don't know JobGet, or indeed don't know you, can you give us a bit of background just to get us going?
Sure. So about me, I've been in the job space for just about 15 years. Started my journey at Indeed in sales, moved over to alliances. So I worked a lot on the rollout of Easy Apply integrating with ATSs back when that was just starting out with Indeed. After that, went to Simply Hired, worked at Jovio for a number of years, and I've been at JobGet here for coming up on 2.5 years.
Wow. So you've been in the recruitment sector for a long time. Is that most of your career?
That's most of my career. That I was at Verizon before that. So 5 years there and 15 years in the TA space.
Fantastic. So JobGet, we're here to talk about JobGet in particular. Give me a little bit about the history of JobGet. What prompted its inception in the first place, and what would you say is the central purpose of JobGet?
Sure. So it's a really mission-driven company, and I just love this space because you have a bad day. You can say, hey, well, we probably helped 1,000 people get jobs today, even more, right? So I love the mission-driven purpose of just everything we're doing here. But JobGet specifically was started by Tony, our CEO. He was in investment banking, and his mom needed a new job, right? She was a cook, and she said, hey, Tony, can you help me? And he said, of course, it'll be easy, right? So he helps her with her resume, which she didn't have because typically cooks don't need resumes on an everyday basis. A couple hours later, they got through their first apply and just found out it was just absolutely horrible for your average everyday worker, right? And so he kind of said there has to be a better way, and so that's really what we've started from, and are building on is to build the home for the everyday worker. And we think about JobGet specifically, right? Like first we started as JobGet the app, which is the app for the everyday worker, but since then we've kind of thought about, in this economy, in this environment, like, are we better off trying to build everything, or do we partner with companies, or do we acquire? And we've kind of brought others into the family, like Snag a Job, who's been serving a portion of that everyday worker for 25 years. We brought Season on board just about 2 months ago, who's helping QSR, FSR, fast service restaurants help hiring. So we kind of think about this all put together and say, we want to build a home across everything for the everyday worker. And what does that mean, right? Like, it's, how do you want to find a job, right? If you are more a traditional internet user and you want to do what and where searches and search for stuff and, get matched in that manner, Snag a Job does exactly that, right? That's how it's based. JobGet is built in more of like the TikTok generation, right? You see TikTok or Instagram or anything like that. The more you interact with stuff, the more it knows what you want. And that's kind of what JobGet does as an app, right? So you upload a resume if you have one. If not, we kind of help you along and build that. You say, hey, like these types of jobs, and it understands the jobs you've had and responsibilities that other jobs have, as well as what's happening in that local market to show you jobs that you'd be a great fit for. So in the JobGet world, it's matching in a manner that says, hey, you might be a warehouse worker, but guess what? You could do this other job that's available today that needs people today, and instead of making $60 an hour, you can go make $20 an hour here, right? So it really changes the mindset for that job seeker and leads to, like I said, what the TikTok generation is looking for, which is don't make me search for it. Like, tell me what's available, right? That's what they want. And then so that's the matching piece. And then the next piece that we're thinking about quite a bit is like, how do you remove friction for job seekers to actually get in front of that employer, right? You talk to employers, you talk to job seekers, both sides are saying there's a black hole and I'm tired of it, right?
Yeah.
Employers more than ever are saying I'm getting bombarded with applies. These people aren't responding. Are they even real? And then the job seekers are saying when I do apply, I never hear back, right? So we're thinking about how do we fix that? That's where something like Season comes in. And even though today they're focused on quick service restaurants like Taco Bell, for example, what ends up happening with them is they remove the friction that we just talked about, right? So job seeker applies to a job. They're integrated fully within ATS. So job seeker applies to that job. On the back end, Season sends them a text saying, hey, do you have these skills and qualifications? It's very quick. If they do, the hiring manager at that local Taco Bell or whatever it is has already exposed their time to interview, like when they have available. And so the job, if they're a good fit, they say, hey, show up to this Taco Bell at 1 p.m. And then, of course, once they've agreed to it, they're reminding them. And so that local manager and that Taco Bell or whoever it is, they don't have to deal with applies. Is it 1,000 applies? Is it 1 applies? Is it 2 applies? No, the qualified folks, they show up to the restaurant and actually go get interviewed and go get hired. So I really think that's the future as well.
Fantastic. That's a whole lot to unpack. I think you've maybe covered the whole interview in one reply there.
Should we hang up?
But I'm gonna backtrack. First of all, I love organizations, and actually there are so many in the recruitment space that are started with a purpose. There was a reason that it was created in the first place, and it was to solve a problem. And usually a personal problem. So many of the job boards or recruitment platforms have been there as a result of someone saw something that needed attention and had the resources to make that happen and put it into practice. And of course, then you build a company, and it becomes much more than that. And it's often the case that companies can deviate from their original purpose, but when you have that core, then you can always return to that. That's what drives you. That's what gets you up in the morning, and you remember that's why we do this thing. So I just wanted to say that first of all. You mentioned obviously JobGet, Snag a Job, Season. Is this all part of the same family?
Yeah, exactly. So we acquired Snag a Job back in, I want to say, November, and Seasoned in January. Yes, it's part of the same family. How they plug and play together, we're still gluing the pieces together, so to speak. So they are, in general, separate ecosystems depending on where it is, where it lives. But ultimately, we want to make sure that job seekers have a great ability to find jobs the way they want, or be found by jobs if that's their preference, and then make it easy to apply.
Just so I'm getting the name correct, is it Season or Seasoned?
Seasoned.
And as in seasoning your steak.
Exactly. There we go.
Okay. And is that specifically to do with seasonal jobs?
It's not seasonal. It is specific to a quick service restaurant today. Right. And so I think we see an application for the future to use their technology for other verticals as well. Certainly it doesn't work for every single role. Like if it's a technology role, the vetting is quite different than, somebody that works at a fast food restaurant or a warehouse or the like. But for the core work trying to service, the applications are pretty great.
So to look at the landscape that you're working in, what proportion of the American workforce that's available for work would you describe as hourly paid workers or standing up workers or blue collar, whatever the term would be? What your demographic, what would you say that size was in the American workforce?
I mean, and we think about it a little bit even larger than that, right? Like we're thinking about people that are not mid to late career white collar, right? And especially if they're still trying to figure stuff out, right? So early white collar career, it's you're still choosing your path and figuring it out. You need a lot of advice. But we also do a lot in healthcare and nursing. We do a decent amount in CDL truck driving. These areas that the traditional resume doesn't serve them well. We're also focusing quite a bit on that. So we think about our total addressable market. It's 70% of working age Americans. It's a really vast amount of folks that we're trying to solve for in different ways.
Yeah. You could say jobs where people are not sitting at a PC all day, where they're up and about. They're either early stage careers or they're in jobs where they're hands-on, as you say. They might be in the leisure sector, the restaurant sector, the nursing caring sector, and 70% is a huge number to be tackling. With that as a marketplace, are you able to read the market, the ups and downs, the flows within that marketplace in the US, where you can see hotspots within the country, you can see developments of large numbers of truckers and delivery drivers in this part of the country, or care sector in this part, or other sectors in other parts of the country? Do you have access to that kind of statistic and information analytics on the marketplace?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, we look at supply and demand all the time.
Yeah.
Right? Like, in fact, when we bring on a new client, we always say, hey, we don't want your money or anything before we can understand your jobs and say, hey, we actually have the audience for this, right? So we are quite a bit looking at that. And then the other piece is, like, especially when you get into healthcare and even when you start getting in management for restaurants, for example, it's something like 60% of management roles are filled by transfers from one place to another, right? In restaurant management, for example, right? In healthcare, if you're trying to fill a hospital role in the middle of nowhere, usually they are pretty tapped out with that local audience, right? So go to areas, you see stuff where, hey, it's the dead of winter and it's, a sunny state year round. And so they'll go ask for relocation campaigns elsewhere. So we help quite a bit with, understanding the supply and demand and helping folks, make that match where it makes sense, and people are offering relocation.
One of the other things that you mentioned in the first reply was understanding the job seeker, and understanding what they want, what they need, what they're able to do, looking at their behaviors and being able to present to them solutions that they might not otherwise have considered. So someone in a particular job will have the skills that would suit for an industry sector they hadn't considered before. And the more they share with you their preferences, show their behaviors, the types of vacancies that they're interested in, the more you're able to put interesting vacancies in front of them.
Yeah, exactly. So on the JobGet app, for example, that's exactly what it does. And it's I'd liken it to almost like an Uber Eats experience, where there's kind of like carousels of job clusters. If I'm logged in and JobGet knows a lot about me, the first job cluster will be, hey, based on your interactions and your profile, here's jobs near you that could be a great fit. The second one might be, here are jobs that are a great fit that you're going to make at least $20 an hour, because I know I'm a warehouse worker and I'm making $16 an hour in that local market. And then it'll kind of take you down, it might be retail roles, warehouse roles, but it'll be curated based off of what I've interacted with and what is generally available in that local market. And so you scroll up and down to get to the different types of roles, and then left and right to see what fits in there. So it's just a different discovery path than people are used to from traditional what-where searches.
And of course, it's not only the case that people have transferable skills, but they have preferences for types of jobs that are transferable from sector to sector. So someone might be looking for a job that is flexible in nature, that is short term, that is only working on certain days of the week, or is, I want to do this job until the summer, when I've got another job lined up to do something else. So that patchwork quilt, if you like, of a career is not necessarily locking the person into a particular industry, but they're looking for work that they can turn their hand to, and that the skills they have will be applicable.
I mean, totally, right? And we find that, especially when you get into the more hourly and early career folk in hourly, they might have 2, 3, 4 jobs at a time. I mean, it gets pretty crazy, right? And so we find that our audiences, some are looking for another part-time role, some are looking for their only part-time role, some are looking for full-time roles, and we also find people that they literally just want money right now. They need it today, right? So we've also, if you went to our app, you'd find one of the buttons is called Get Cash, which is opportunities for people to earn right now, right? And so in that scenario, today it's simple stuff: play games, upload receipts, take surveys, that sort of thing. So it's not going to change your world in terms of what you make per day, but we're kind of still in testing phases to see, is that a magnet to get people that are really interested, to help them right now with their need, but also they can go to the other tab and find those part-time and full-time jobs as well. They're going to have the need right now and the need, in the future.
Yeah, the sort of gig that can get someone out of a hole frankly.
Yeah.
If they're in a situation, they need to find the rent in a hurry, and they're more than happy to do whatever it takes work-wise to get there, then that kind of role can be perfect.
Exactly.
Yeah. One phrase I came across when looking into JobGet is extra income jobs. And you mentioned it there, people having multiple jobs at the same time, or a job that works around the rest of their life. They might be caring for a parent, and they've got 4 hours on Friday, Saturday, Sunday that they can be working and earning. And looking for that is vital for them. It's not just, some people would talk about these jobs in flippant terms, but it's not just a side job. It's not just, earning pennies. It's vital to supplement what they do to enable them to do those other things.
Oh my goodness, totally. And that's also, in general, it's very interesting because, I mean, the gig economy, the Ubers of the world, the Instacarts and so on, they are so wildly adopted by consumers, and they really serve a need for job seekers. And I'm on the road quite a bit, so I'm taking Ubers every place and Lyfts every place. And I talk to my drivers that sometimes they say, "Hey, I started doing this an hour a week in between jobs and in between time, or my kid's in bed and I just had an hour to kill." And then some of them are, doing it literally full time. So, but I think that traditional job sites sometimes struggle with, like, what's the right way to help make these connections for these extra income or flexible schedule roles. Because frankly, because they can be every place, the employer will sometimes really bombard your system with different roles, and it's hard to make that balance. So we've kind of bifurcated that into a certain area where it's easy to find if that's what you're looking for.
Yeah, I don't want to do down traditional job sites, but it certainly seems that what you're doing is you're going to a different, further down level in terms of knowing the people who are signing up. You're understanding them in a greater way, and you're engaging with them in a greater way. One thing that could be said, and I might be wrong about this segment of the marketplace, is people in these jobs are maybe more susceptible to be taken advantage of in work, in jobs advertised that perhaps don't always exist, and people want to have confidence in the platform that they're using to get that. Now, thinking about the technology, what can and what does JobGet do to help reassure those people who are looking for jobs with companies that they can have faith in?
Sure, and you're absolutely right. Like, it's I've seen data where it's like at any given time, 70% of the American workforce is interested in seeing a job if it looks like it's a good fit, right? And when things are so interesting, it's always susceptible to bad actors, right? And it's one of the biggest duties we have. Of course, we exist to try and make good connections between good job seekers and good employers, and you really have to do a lot to get those bad actors out. So we definitely have teams that will go in and manually review everything, whether it's a individual, somebody signed up for an individual job, right? We have a literal channel that I even get dinged on. Somebody signed up for a job, every single one. And you'll still see to this day, Tony, our CEO, saying, "Hey, that seems suspect." And usually it's followed with, "Don't worry, our system automatically flagged it," right? We do have, even like if you're signing up for because usually if it's a large employer that says, "Hey, I have a whole bunch of money to spend with you," there's an interaction there that, like, it naturally polices itself out. It's a real company that has real jobs. It's usually the self-serve signups that really have to be policed, right? And in that instance, we have automations, we have AI looking at it, we have humans. It's so important to make sure we're protecting our job seeker and their experience, because they're never going to come back and like, you go on to Reddit and search their job section, it's just a cesspool of people complaining about different sites, right? And rightfully so, right? It's really important for us to protect the integrity of their search.
So I think that ties in with my next question, which is, tell me a bit about the social side of JobGet.
Sure. So we do have aspects of job seekers interacting with each other on the app. We do quite a bit of expanding our audience through social areas. So we've invested in TikTok and Instagram and traditional SEM, for example, to kind of extend the audiences as well. Some of that is, traditional job descriptions, and some of that is bringing them to life to kind of get job seekers in.
So, as I mentioned before, it seems very much a candidate-centric platform where the candidate is in the center of everything, and you're delivering a service to them, albeit the people who pay for the adverts are the employers. But again, looking at the employers, though, to what degree are you able to guide them to get the very best responses to the adverts that they're posting, or to fill the vacancies that they have, where you've got market information on, as I was saying before, hotspots in the marketplace, what's working, what's not working?
Yeah, so we do quite a bit of analysis around that. Like, we'll take their job feed in or crawl their site and say, hey, here's what we're seeing the mix is, right? In certain scenarios, we'll even say, hey, here's what the pay is versus what you have, or give them advice on apply processes and how we can make that better, right? So even being that we're serving an audience that is predominantly on their cell phones, especially on the JobGet app. The app is always cell phone first. We always embrace how do you remove the friction, right? So if somebody's on an older ATS that has 1,000 questions in a login, you're just not going to have great responses. So even if you have the supply of job seekers, you hit a brick wall before they even get a chance of applying. So we give quite a bit of advice on, hey, how do we remove the friction? How do we help around there? But of course, we don't want to lose the intent of that job seeker. So we stay very far away from you click a button and you're just applied to 10 jobs or anything like that. It's all easy apply, screener questions type of thing, staying integrated, really removing the friction every place. And then once again, kind of going back to the season piece of it, we see the future of removing even more of that friction and hopefully just getting them interviews, right?
Yeah.
The other piece that we're focused quite a bit on is getting disposition data back automatically from their ATS. Because
what's the disposition?
Yeah. So not just did an apply happen, but is this somebody that you said was qualified? Is it somebody that made it to an interview stage? Did they get to a third interview? Did they get hired, and so on? Because the more feedback loop we have on that, especially when we're dealing with high volume scenarios, the more we can make sure, hey, we're actually making great matches on our recommendations to audiences or not, right? It helps us hone in.
So I'm going to ask a bit about the technology that underpins JobGet. JobGet itself is relatively new. Is it 2019 the company was founded?
It was founded in 2017, but I'd say it exploded a few more years after that.
Okay. So in terms of technology, it's still a young company. Snagajob has obviously been around for a lot longer, and typically people would talk about platforms like that as legacy, and a legacy platform can have a difficult time evolving because their customers expect things to be done a certain way. But newer platforms can set about new problems or current problems with new technologies. So the technology that's underpinning JobGet, how has that evolved in the past few years, and how would you characterize that in the current marketplace?
Yeah, so it's that's an interesting question to unpack, especially because we've acquired other companies, right? So, and at the end of the day, forget the technology for a second. What's the purpose of the technology? It's to get the right job seekers in the door.
Yeah.
Get them matched to the right jobs, whether they're searching for it or we're helping them match. And then making it easy to actually apply to that job, right?
Yeah.
So removing that friction, having everyone live happily ever after and actually worry about not the job search itself, but being hired and being fulfilled in that role, right? And so when I joined, it was just the app. It was just JobGet the app. And to your point, it was, we're still early and we're still growing and all that stuff. We've been investing a ton in search and match. And in fact, when I started here, the whole carousel, using data to make really informed decisions on how we're matching the job seekers, that wasn't even part of it yet, right? So that's over the past year and change that we've really gone down that path of the JobGet app, right? Even on the Snagajob side, as we've kind of integrated with each other a bit, we're learning all the data that they have. What's awesome about legacy systems is they have so much data and they've done so many interactions with so many job seekers. Their learnings are great. And I wouldn't knock legacy systems too much because
Yeah,
they've built some really fantastic things over the years too, right? And at the end of the
uh,
day,
yeah,
it ends up being, are we helping job seekers make connections the way that they want? Some still do want
yeah.
what where searches, right? Like that's
Mhm,
still a very nice way to go find jobs, right?
mhm.
And then beyond that, we like I said, we partner with Season and integrated their technology. And
Yeah,
then of course there's the whole AI boom, which is like making everything smarter, better, faster.
yeah,
We're seeing that come more and more into our stack every day,
yeah.
I can't even keep up with it.
Yeah, I would expect, and of course, candidates, and maybe employers too, advertisers, they expect magic to happen. They don't need to understand how it's happening.
Yeah,
They just need to know that the quality of jobs that are being presented to them that are suggested as good matches are going to delight them. Oh, I hadn't thought of that job. That's a great company. I should definitely apply for that. So they don't really need to know how it happens, but candidates will vote with their feet very quickly if they're
yes,
being presented with mismatches that are never suitable for them. And as a candidate goes through the process, a bit like on sites where you're swiping left and right, they're informing your platform of their preferences. Your platform is understanding what works, and again with employers, through you were saying the disposition data, working out what's working to get those vacancies filled, and it opening up possibilities with a different seam of types of candidates that could suit for that vacancy. And without banging on about AI too much, you would expect, or I would certainly expect, that modern platforms now are continually learning
yeah.
what good looks like, and making those matches more accurately.
I mean, absolutely, right? Like, I think when I first got into space, everyone's like, "Oh, we just put ONET in the middle of it, and like that's the matching." Right? You do some
Yeah.
tweaks, and you do deduping, and that's most of what search was.
Mm.
These days, I mean, it's so easy to easy comparatively to do a good job on false positives, for example. Like you'd
Mhm.
have. I remember back in the day, you'd have something where it's like the assistant to the executive VP, and like somebody's looking for
Mm.
an executive VP position, and that's showing up, right? Like that stuff is
Yeah.
like just a thing of the past at this point, right? So from a matching and false positives and just understanding like what jobs you're interacting with and why, you can pump that
Yeah.
into these large models and really understand a lot about a lot of people in a lot of different ways and really build more curated experiences per job seeker than you ever
Yeah.
could before, where it was more of a bulk experience in the past.
Yeah. So your platform, by its very nature, is going to be more sticky because people are changing jobs on a more frequent basis. Not everyone, but they're going to be changing jobs maybe every couple of months, sometimes every week, sometimes multiple jobs at a time.
Sure.
So the problem that lots of job platforms have is that someone looks for a job once every 18 months, 2 years.
Right.
And when they do it afresh, they have to relearn how to search for a job because it's a frustrating and often really difficult thing to do. Uh, do you have a bit of humming going on in the background there?
Yeah, I'm sorry. Somebody's mowing the lawn apparently. Good timing.
So long as I know what it is, that's fine. But yeah. What I was going to say is that the technology involved, you hope and expect that the candidates are continually being re-delighted with that, because they're frequently using or continually monitoring their JobGet app, and while they're in the middle of a job, they're currently looking for another job. As soon as they get a new job, they might still be looking for another job because they need something else to top up the money they need to pay the rent, or whatever. So the the way that you go about things is going to be so different. The metrics of what you measure and what is important are going to be very different to other recruitment platforms.
Yeah, I mean, what's interesting there is like, and it's not every job seeker, of course. There's certain folks that stick around for a
Mhm.
very long time at jobs, but
Yeah,
when you
yeah,
start, when you start thinking about restaurants, for example, or
yeah,
fast food restaurants, their entire staff churns over 100% every year for the most part, right?
yeah,
So it's
yeah,
just really high churn, and then you also have, um, you know, a cohort of job seekers who are holding 3 jobs at a time, and like one of those is the worst paying job, and so they're always trying to
Yeah.
replace the worst paying job or the one that's the wrong
Mhm.
hours or less commutable or something.
Mhm.
So it's an always on audience, and you're exactly right. Like we have to serve our audience in a manner that they are always on, which has benefits,
Yeah.
right? We get better data signals, we understand more, we get more interactions
Yeah.
than your average white collar job. And to the same point, it's really hard for job seekers, which I don't have any solution for, but like if every
Yeah.
18 months or 3 years you start looking for a job again, it feels daunting. So
Yeah.
that's what's great about our audience from that perspective, is we can kind of help them as an always on basis.
Yeah. Tell me, are there different considerations when advertising and when hosting the adverts for jobs that are largely dependent on tipping? So if someone's working in restaurants or in Ubers or any of these jobs where there's a heavy emphasis on that, is there a different nature to the advertising and recruitment of those jobs that your regular person might not understand?
I don't know that wouldn't understand. I mean, I have seen. I'm just thinking this through. Like, it does become interesting with, like, especially now that you're supposed to show wages,
Yeah.
and do you show what's actually guaranteed and all of that.
Yeah.
I think from a job seeker perspective, they generally understand, like, here's how this is paid. It's pretty
Mhm.
common knowledge, I would say.
Yeah.
So I don't know that there's like wildly different considerations other than anytime the wage isn't guaranteed, it always becomes people aren't dependent on it when they're thinking about how much I'm going to make. And so
Yeah.
you're paying somebody $8 an hour. It's just harder to get the right folks in the door, unless you have
Yeah.
a really good reputation of being a high earning on the tip side, but that's more of a
Mhm.
local level, not necessarily on
Yeah.
a job search on a platform level.
Yeah, as someone in the UK, it's not something I'm totally switched on to, but I understand that there would be different regulations in different states about a restaurant, for example, guaranteeing to make up to minimum wage if
Yeah.
someone doesn't make it up in tips. But the regulations would be different in different places.
Yeah, it's also become. I was just talking to somebody about this a few days ago, and they were talking about in California how
Yeah.
it's actually become so expensive to hire folks in restaurants that, like, normally a restaurant wants to have a third be their overhead cost, a third be the
Mhm.
cost of food, and a third profit, and
Yeah.
it's becoming really challenging to balance that. And so the way
Mhm.
to balance that is like have better technology that serves you in a different way that makes your output of other things a little more efficient. I
Yeah.
don't have great answers there at the moment, though.
No, that's absolutely fine. Finally, I'm going to ask. Well, not finally, because there's another question after that. But I need to ask from the viewpoint that you were in with JobGet, Snag a Job, and Season. What is your perspective on the current climate that we're in from an employment and an advertising point of view?
It's a weird time for sure, right?
It
I
is.
think that whereas at the beginning of COVID, you had people sitting on their couches ordering packages, they had nothing better to do. That was really flooding the market for a while. I think right
Mhm.
now we have quite the opposite of that with economic certainty and with all the tariff stuffs, will they, won't they? I think it's really not whether there will be tariffs or not, but like just the uncertainty part of
Yeah.
that has
Yeah.
really made everyone put a pause on, will I be hiring right now, and what are my plans?
Mm.
Because I don't think anybody wants to go in and hire and then something shifts in the economy and they say, wait, I got to let go X amount of people, right? Or change my
Yeah.
plan. So I think there's a
Yeah.
lot of sit and wait right now, which is
Mhm.
made it a really weird and interesting time.
Yeah, so certainly the logistics industry, anyone who's working at the docks or airports or in trucking, then the stop-start nature of that can have
Yeah.
a big effect on confidence in the
It's,
sector.
I mean,
And
it's also all the downstream stuff, right? Like, so where
yeah,
is all that? The trucking and logistics. You fill up a truck. Where's all that stuff going? To the retail
yeah,
shop, right? But then
mm,
they're saying, wait a second, what's the price going to be? So the
yeah,
manufacturer is worried about it. The retail company is stock for it because the prices are going to change. And then the consumer
yeah,
is saying, do I front load my purchasing now, or do I wait to see what happens? Or so I
yeah.
think it's way beyond that, honestly.
Yeah. So my final question, and I know we've gone a little bit over time. Uh, in the next and it's hard to the horizon for how far you can look ahead is a lot shorter than it ever was. But in the coming months, 3, 6, 12 months, what are the prospects? What are the plans for JobGet that people should be aware of?
Yeah,
Employers and job seekers.
We're continually preparing for the future. We're continually thinking about what are other ways we can help our audience connect to jobs and do it with as little friction as possible. So we're continuing to invest in the technologies that will help with that. We're also looking at is it worth building ourselves, or are there other companies out there that have already built great things that we can partner with? Because we've frankly seen really good success with that path as well. So we're really keeping an open mind to whatever paths help our job seekers and our employers like.
Yeah, well, certainly with the acquisition of Snag-a-Job and the partnership with Seasoned, those are a declaration of intent. We're taking the bull by the horns, and we're tackling this market, and we have optimism for how this market is going to work and grow for us. So all of those are fantastic positive things. Dan, before we finish, you're going to be joining us, I understand, in 3 weeks' time in San Diego for TIA Tech North America. Are there particular things that you're looking forward to, or people that you're looking forward to meet when you get there?
Everyone. I think I've been going for a dozen years at this point. Yeah. So I remember I was going when I started at Simply Hired about a dozen years ago, right? So it's a very solid conference, and it's a great place to go meet our partners and potential partners. So I'm all about the some of the speakers are really good, and then as well as just the networking opportunities and getting with folks that you don't normally go see. It's just really great potential from there.
Yeah. I think I often see you busy in conversation in the deal center.
I go hang out there quite a bit.
Once you get into the deal center, it's almost impossible to prize yourself out, because there's next person after next person that will engage you in really interesting conversations.
I love and hate it. I hate it because it's rapid fire, and I wish they were longer sometimes because you get these great conversations. But I love it because you have an app that I want to talk to these people. Yes.
in DC last summer, there was a roof deck beside the deal center, and I saw someone standing out on the corner, and I went over and I said, "Are you okay?" And he said, "I'm just taking a rest. I'm up to here. My head is going to burst. I've had all these conversations. I just need 2 minutes, and then I'll go back in."
That might have been me.
Sounds about right. Well, I look forward to seeing you in 3 weeks' time. Thank you very much for coming on as a guest. You've been absolutely fantastic. Thanks everyone who's joined us today, either watching live or on replay or on all the social media platforms. Please, if you're coming to San Diego in 3 weeks, make a point of sitting with Dan and giving him even more to go home with. And if you've not booked your tickets yet, then please do that. Go to tiatech.org and you can do that. And to find out more about JobGet, click on the link at the bottom of the screen, and I highly recommend that you do. In the meantime, I'm going to say, Dan, thank you very much again, and thanks everyone for joining.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you very much.